Hey guys, it's Pro Performance Coach Adam Carmel here. In today's video, you're going to learn about the 4 different performance zones and how you need to be pushing yourself to constantly be in the higher level zones in order to get the most out of yourself on a consistent basis. So let's dive straight in with the lowest level zone, which is the coastal zone. So when I was at school, I was consistently in this zone, and it's basically where you do as little as possible without repercussions. So at school, that would mean me doing enough to pass exams, get homework in, but never straining yourself. This is where people are in like 9-to-5 jobs that they don't like and they live for the weekends. They'll coast through life. They'll just do enough to not have any negative consequences. So this is the lowest level zone. You'll find yourself here when you're lowly motivated, you're not enjoying the work you're doing, you're not enjoying the process, and you're just kind of going through the motions. So if you're in this zone, this is like a real danger zone. You need to quickly get yourself out of that one and into the second level zone, which isn't that much better, but it's definitely an improvement on the coastal zone. So the second zone, level up on the tiering system, is the comfort zone. So the comfort zone is where you do what you've always done before. So you do the habits and routines that have worked for you, and you keep yourself in this zone. Now, I found myself in the comfort zone for about 2 years in my poker career, from 2013 to 2014. So I was playing heads up sit and goes. I did a quick rise through the rankings from $15 games through to $300 games, and I was finally at like a good mid-stakes level where I was making real good money for the first time in my life. I had my first 6-figure year. I had Supernova Elite Rakeback, which was like really lucrative at the time. And I remember being really comfortable with my habits and routines. And as a result, I stopped pushing myself. I stopped growing as a poker player. I stopped studying as much. I stopped looking at the higher lobbies and thinking about playing those games. I stopped, trying to improve my game so much as well. And I just got in this habit of just putting high volume in, but just not really pushing myself. And I look back on those, that year and a half, I think it was 18 months roughly at that level, with a little bit of regret that I didn't really push myself. I didn't challenge myself. I just got very comfortable. Yes, I had good habits, good routines and stuff, but I didn't challenge myself. I didn't stimulate myself, and I got very comfortable. And for poker players, this is very common. So I work with a lot of players right now, and what generally happens is poker players are initially motivated to make some money, make that short-term money to change their financial situation, pay the bills, live life on their own terms. And what happens is when they have that initial success, they achieve that outcome, then they go, oh, what next? Now there's no deadlines. Now there's no immediate bills due, or there's no repercussions of not making more money. So you've got to, your survival needs are met. So you've got to transition into the thriving mentality, from surviving to thriving, where a lot of players don't, and they end up stuck in the comfort zone, doing enough, like they're playing enough to make enough money to live off, but they're not excelling. So everyone ends up in the comfort zone to some degree in some parts in their life. Maybe it's with your health, with your fitness, with your poker career. It could be any area. And this is the most natural zone to be in, because our brains and our bodies, they love homeostasis. They love that balance. They love everything being familiar and us being used to it. It's low energy. That's why habits and routines are so effective. They're a low energy state. So the comfort zone, we're naturally going to try and gravitate towards it, and we need to be conscious of it and then push ourselves to go to the next zone. So the next zone is the challenge zone. The third zone, the challenge zone, is where you're attempting to do things that you have not done before. Pushing yourself out of your comfort zone and challenging yourself. So as a poker player, this will involve you studying, trying new strategies that you haven't done before in order to try and improve your game. It's going to be pushing yourself to play higher buy-ins. It's going to be thinking about stretch goals that you haven't achieved before, and how you're going to push yourself to do those. So you need to spend a lot of time challenging yourself and growing, because this is where a lot of development happens, and this is where you need to be. You need to be on the edge of that comfort/challenge zone in order to make any growth. So with challenge zone, the kind of hard part of this zone is there's a lot of failure. We fail a lot of times when we try new things, and that's not like a negative thing. It's just the reality of life. When we try something new, what's the chances of us hitting a home run the first time? It's quite low. So we're going to fail a lot, and this puts people off trying new things and being in the challenge zone, because it's a bit vulnerable. You put yourself on the line, and you're going to often lose out in the short term. So when you're in this zone, you need to be realizing that failure is just a feedback mechanism. It's not something like concrete. You're going to learn from the failures and challenge yourself to go again and improve from it. So my biggest kind of period in the challenge zone was when I decided I was done with the comfort zone of the $300 level in terms of sitting goals, and I wanted to play the $1,000 games, and they were like the highest stakes in my format. There's a lot of scary names in the lobbies that I would thought were better players than me, but I really wanted to play those games, and the guys I was living with had the same sort of aspirations as well, and I went into playing the best guys in my format. Now, this was 1, a challenge, 2, scary as hell, and 3, I had a lot of self-doubt at that time. So I started playing these guys, and first 4 weeks really, I got my arse kicked. I got a big beat down, and I got, basically took a downswing when I started playing these 1K games. Now, I realized it was a challenge. I realized I was stepping out my comfort zone. It didn't feel good. It didn't feel nice, but I realized this was the best way for me to grow. So that first month could have broke me. I could have went back down to the lower stakes, grind it back up, and start again. But I decided to just keep going at it because I was learning from the process. I was rising to the challenge. I was getting a punch in the face a few times, but I was going, okay, how can I learn from this? How can I get better? And I was approaching poker in a very sort of systematic way and trying to problem solve my way through it. So when you go into the challenge zone, you're going to meet obstacles. You're going to hit a roadblock. It's not going to go the way you want it to, especially initially, and you've got to be able to persist and push past it. But you need to spend a lot of time in this zone. So for me, it took me 8 months to break into the highest levels of my game, the 1K level, because I met a lot of resistance. I met a lot of guys who didn't want me to have the same outcome I wanted for myself, and I had to persist through it, and I had to grow, and I had to evolve. And I look back on that time as a massive transition time, not only for myself as a poker player, but also for myself as a person, because I learned to deal with obstacles better. I learned to deal with like life not being fair, and sometimes you've got ideas and goals and dreams, and you want them to happen quickly, but you've got to keep going longer and longer and pushing yourself over a long period of time in order to get the outcome that you thought was going to be really quick. So it gave me a good reality check, and it told me like, if you work hard, you can get the outcome you want, but don't expect it to come as quick as you want. So the challenge zone is really important. You need to make sure you're constantly there. You should always be looking above. Wait, what can I do more? How can I do better? How can I improve? Your habits and routines can be good, but they could always be better. Your poker game can be good, but it can always be better. Like everything can be improved. So when you're thinking like that, that's when you're challenging yourself. So think about how you can put yourself in more challenging situations going forward. In the final zone, which is the hardest one to be in, level 4, top of the system, is the creative zone. So the creative zone is where you're attempting to think thoughts that you've never even thought before. So without getting too like woo-woo on this one, basically you're trying to connect ideas, connect dots and things that you haven't seen before and think in new creative ways. So as a poker player, this is super important when you're trying to learn and study. Like it's good to like replicate strategies. It's good to see what a solver does and try to mimic some of those players. But the real like kind of growth as a poker player is when you learn to think creatively for yourself. You learn to connect dots. You learn to come up with your own strategies and ways of dealing with situations that are unique. And the only way to do this is to dedicate some time for being creative. The way I would do this, if I were you guys, is to have a block of time to study, like a long block, one long block of the week. So it could be 3 hours where you allow yourself to really get deep into it. When you've only got like half an hour here, an hour there, it's sometimes hard to get really deep on a topic and get super creative. So if you give yourself like say 3 hours of studying and thinking of ideas, that's really going to help you to spark those creative juices and think outside the box. And poker's all about thinking outside the box, thinking laterally, rather than one-dimensional. So if you really want to progress, find some time to be creative. So another way I would kind of cultivate like creativity into your days is to challenge yourself to think of ideas of how you can do things better. So for example, I've got this practice at the moment where I write down 10 ideas every morning. Now the topic varies a lot, but for you guys it could be, say you had an opponent who was hyper aggressive, you could write down 10 ideas to deal with hyper aggressive opponents. The first thing might be lower my PIP. So like I'm not in as many like uncomfortable spots. Second thing might be fold more to c-bet so I don't get barreled off things. The third thing might be when he doesn't bet, make sure you take all the pots off him. The fourth thing could be check raise more to make sure like he hasn't got enough value there. The next thing could be to call down lighter because he's got too much bluffs. But you get the idea. But basically, you're going to write down 10 ideas on how you could counter this strategy and just let your thoughts flow and always push yourself to write at least 10 things. So I did this a lot for like different opponent types, different strategies, and get yourself to start thinking like, how can I do things better? What am I missing here? And creative thinking is so important. When you look at like where the world's moving right now, there's a lot of obviously innovation, but when you look at like the big breakthroughs at the moment in the world, generally around people linking ideas from different fields, like, oh, that works there, linking those together and coming up with like a magic like solution to a existing problem. And poker is a bit like that. It's like, okay, how can I use this information here, this information there to solve this problem that I've got? And the more time you can spend in that creative zone, the more time you can learn to think outside the box and think laterally, the better poker player you're going to be. You're going to literally have loads of ideas. You'll be in spots which are a unique spot you've not been in before, and you'll be using that creative brain of yours to think of ways to further exploit your opponent, to capitalize on their weaknesses. So this is a zone that, admittedly, I don't spend as much time as I want to in this zone either, but I try to cultivate at least 3 hours of a week to spend thinking of creative ideas, thinking outside the box, trying to think of thoughts I've not thought before. And the reason it's hard to get into this zone is because we're all so busy. Life's just busy. We're all doing stuff. And when you're doing stuff all the time, you can't be creative. If you're trying to multitask, you're trying to grind all the time or listen to an audiobook, or you're trying to do loads of things at once, you can't be creative in that zone. Creativity requires you to have calmness, have stillness, and I just think with ideas, and maybe pen and paper, looking at a solver solution or anything like that, just where you're allowing yourself to think in like isolation. And that's like a real superpower in poker right now. It's also a superpower in life as a whole. So think about what zone you gravitate towards. So when I'm thinking about this as I'm speaking, my zone I gravitate towards is the comfort zone and then the challenge zone. So I've got enough like internal drive in me that when I'm in the comfort zone for too long, I get angry at myself and I force myself to push out of it and go to the challenge zone. Now that I'm more aware of this, I'm more aware of my natural tendency to go for the comfort zone, I can push myself before I end up in the comfort zone for too long. So back in 2013, 2014, I wasn't really aware that I was in this comfort zone. So it took me a long time to seek new challenges. But now I check in with myself every week and I'm always thinking, how can I challenge myself further? I've got great habits, great routines, but I'm like, how can I step them up further? How can I challenge myself to do more? What's the next project, challenge, a level of growth myself which I need to take on? So for you guys, always be thinking, how can I be a better poker player? How can I do things better than last week? How can I increase my volume, increase my study time? How can I play the highest stakes in my format if you're not playing them already? What would it take to play the level above that I'm playing right now? Then you go into the creative zone and start writing ideas down. What would it take to be a high stakes player? What would I need to improve? What skills do I need to do? So start building that idea, and so that creative muscle is going to be super important. So think about where you gravitate towards, and then push yourself to spend more time in the challenge zone and then make some time for the creative zone. Like I said, I've got like a daily practice of writing 10 ideas down. That's just enough for me to build that creative muscle. Over time, that's going to develop where I can hopefully come up with ideas a lot more freely, which is going to allow me to solve more complex problems in my own life and hopefully for you guys as well. But yeah, you've got to spend time in each zone. So think about where you are right now. If you're in the comfort zone, class this as a face slap, virtual face slap for you to push yourself to get into that challenge zone and then also make time for the creative zone. So if you guys got some good value from this, and if you did, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Also, leave a comment below with the zone that you're in right now and what your biggest challenge is in the poker world.